teaching it. She has 30 minutes to complete those questions, and then 10 minutes for questions and answers, or questions afterwards. We will cycle between the in-person crowd here and those online. So our folks online, you can put your questions in the chat. We will make sure that we respond to those as we get them.
Okay.
Ms. Geiger, they are all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody who decided to come out to my presentation today. I'm very grateful to have all of you here and those on Zoom. So today, I just want to start off by talking about a little bit who I am and how I got here. So I was a product of FFA members. My mom really pushed me to go into ag education. And in the beginning, I was hesitant. I was the shy kid in the back of the classroom. And thanks to her motivating me and my amazing ag advisors that are pictured on the screen, I am where I am now. I have developed a lot of leadership skills that I'm bringing with me now from my FFA experience, and I get to watch my little sister go through the same program now, and I get to be behind the scenes and see all of the things that she is doing in a different aspect, in a different light. My background in agriculture started on my mom's dairy farm, which sadly she had to shut down a few years ago, but I am still actively a part of my grandfather's dairy farm, where we sent our cattle to. And I'm so grateful to have had that experience that has led me to where I am, and my passion for agriculture is never failing. I am from a small town in Bradford County called Shashequin. Not many have heard of it, but I did go to Athens High School, which I know some of you are more familiar with. Starting in 7th grade is really when I started with some of the little teaching that I did. I was a part of the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, also known as Big Buddy. I started there and continued to be in the Big Buddy program until senior year of high school, and was known as the longest standing active Big Sister in the program. And then I also, as I mentioned, was a part of the Athens FFA. I held multiple leadership positions there, was able to get my Keystone degree, which is the state FFA degree for those who don't know, alongside my best friend, and of course had my advisor's support along the way. From there, I went to Lackawanna College. A lot of you know I did not start at Penn State. Lackawanna College allowed me to gain an associate's degree in professional studies. I graduated there in May of 2022 and started at Penn State in the fall of 22. So what kind of teacher would I be without some learning objectives? So today you are going to be able to know who I am as a teacher, what college experiences made the biggest impact on me, and how I am prepared for student teaching at Red Lion High School. So first, who I aspire to be as a teacher. In my teaching philosophy, it highlights all things around the 3-circle model. For those of you who don't know, Ag Ed has the 3-circle model, which entails the classroom instruction, SAE, or supervised agricultural experience, and FFA. It is my goal to empower students to find their leadership qualities through FFA and develop professional skills they will use lifelong. And in their SAE projects that they will be utilizing and participating in, they'll be able to find their part in agriculture that they have passion for. But my end goal in all of this is to develop educated consumers. All of these steps lead to one thing: educated consumers. So many go through life not knowing where their food actually comes from. They think, oh, I just go to the grocery store and that's where I get my food. But they don't credit or even know who is behind the scenes doing all of the work. So my students should and will leave my classroom with that understanding. So I want to talk a little bit about classroom management. As you can see displayed behind me and on the screen, I have developed 3 signs that I will be utilizing in my student teaching as well as in my future classroom. I want to start off with my classroom procedures. I formulated this as 5 daily questions. I want my students to be able to ask more questions than just why. So if I start with these questions, the first 3 being as they come in, making sure they're prepared for class and have kept caught up on all of the things that we should be doing. they then can lead into, did I complete all my assignments for the day? Rather than just asking themselves, why am I sitting in this classroom? And at the end of the day, they will complete an exit ticket that I will assess at the end of each class so that I'm better able to make sure that all my students are on the same level. And if not, how can I reassess to make sure that all the students can reach my end goal? Oops. My shared expectations is not only for my students, but for myself. I hope that my students during my student teaching will hold me to these expectations. I ask that all my students will always be prepared, curious, respectful, and to be your best. Everybody has bad days, but if you can start here, I feel as though this is the bare minimum and we can work together to become successful in the classroom. And I ask that you hold me to these expectations as well, because as your educator, I want to give you the best, and I can only give you the best if you tell me what you need. And of course, the one thing that everybody dreads is the consequences, but they are necessary for the classroom. As you can see, I base my consequences off of what Red Lion has. We start off with, of course, the verbal warning and leads into discussion with teacher. After a call home and detention, this is where discipline referrals come in. I hope that I never have to use these, but I will use them in the moments that the need arises. But while I was working on these posters, I began to think about all of the things what I would want my dream program to look like. So this is just a little bit of a rough draft of what I think an ideal program would look like. So I want you to look at the top row, Introduction to Ag. This course would offer students a chance to get involved in all the areas of agricultural education, get a little bit of a feel for what they like and dislike, and then from there would be able to choose which pathway they would like to take. I recognize that every student has a different passion, so whether it is animal science, ag mechanics, plant science, or natural resources, they can choose where that path might take them. In this class, I want to talk about my intro to ag class specifically. I decided to make this project of metal flowers. I have it placed up here, but I will pass it around. Dr. Ewing, don't judge my welding too bad, please. Okay, assessing my beads. Ideally, if this were my program, I would use this project as something simple for my introduction to ag to make. This would allow them to use the MIG welder and make sure that they might be able to lay beads properly, understanding the concepts of a grinder and just other elements of welding that they might need. And it allows them to grasp what ag mechanics might entail, but have a small, short project that can be done in a cost-effective way and cost less than $15. But I also wanted to mention that if a course were to use this, or an ag program in general, it can be used in more than just that. We can think of it in ag mechanics, where we are practicing our welding, or if just a welding course as an introduction to get them to feel what it is like to use a MIG welder. SAE integration, as I mentioned in my philosophy, is a big part of my students' journey through ag education. So this will teach them proper record keeping, and also to back up for those who are not super familiar with this program, the students would have a program specific to them. And it is an area where they have passion, whether it is their job or they want to start their own business, whatever that entails, they can start with that. And they will keep track of their records, meaning they will keep track of what they do and the money that goes into it or goes out. And it provides them some financial literacy. And in my ideal program, I would start each of them out with a foundational SAE project where they can kind of explore careers, and from there they can decide where they want to go. I myself would grade record books probably once a marking period. I don't want to stand on top and feel overbearing and feel as though this is a dreaded thing that they have to do. But I do want to make sure that they're doing it and they're doing it properly. And if there is areas that they might need help, I'd be more than willing to help with that. I also would do advisor visits. I think ideally, and I learned this from my CT, Krista Moser, that I think it would be great to be able to visit once a semester, once in the fall, once in the spring, and once in the summer. I feel as though this is important and would allow me to see what the students are doing, make sure that they're keeping up with their record keeping truthfully, and making sure that they are challenging themselves in their SAE project to make them more excited and just keep going and further their project. Now FFA. Everybody has heard of FFA, whether you were a member or you just heard it from word of mouth. This allows students to gain professionalism. Through CDEs, they gain a network of people that they don't even realize they have until they leave high school. I would encourage CDEs in courses, and I myself am looking for ways to integrate CDEs to allow students to understand what they are, meaning if it is a competition, say livestock judging, for example. How can I implement that into my curriculum for my animal science students to want to be excited and to want to join and do the CDE? I also would be encouraging and welcoming to all students with interest, and maybe try to push students out of their comfort zone, because I know that's something that as a high school student you sometimes need. But I also want to allow time for coaching, whether that is through myself in an after school visit with the students and we sit down and coach, or finding somebody in the community that we can work alongside who might know the content better than I myself do. Next is program recruitment. This is a very important part of having an ag program, and there are multiple ways you can do it, but we need to gain our support from our community and also gain members. So I'm going to show you this example of program recruitment, and hopefully I'm sorry about that, with some minor technical issues. That is okay. What I will do is the flyer that you received when you walked in, there is a QR code on the last page. Inside that QR code is a bunch of my folders that I'll be using during my student teaching, just to give you an idea of what I'll be teaching, some lessons, some units, but also there is a folder with just other logistics. So I will put in the link for this video for those who are curious and see what this video holds. But just to elaborate some more for each of you so you understand what this video entails, I think it is super important to involve the students. I would not be making this as the advisor. I would ask them, maybe my FFA officer team, or just some students in general with interest in using technology, who might want to be a part of this video to recruit their program to the community and to their peers. This video would be posted on, say, social media, because we know how much social media reaches the public. I would also try to allow this to be put onto maybe the school webpage if we have a section for our ag program specifically. And I think it's beneficial for the parents as well as the students, because we also need their support through all the nights that they're going to sit up worrying about their children as they're at FFA events, wondering what they're doing in Indianapolis. And even at Penn State when they're here throughout the summer. As I mentioned, community integration and involvement is so important. Having the community support behind you at all times is something that is necessary. So to first gain networks through my community, I would ask some people to come in to present to my class about, say, their business that goes alongside of the unit that I might be teaching, and even take field trips to those sites so that the students can get a hands-on experience and see what's actually going on there. This would start to create bonds with the chapter and the community. And when the community sees all of the things that you are doing, and that you are not just taking your students on these cool field trips to take them out of class, and they see how much learning these kids are doing, they will be there to support you through anything that you might endeavor. So now for a little bit of fun with the biggest experiences, or the college experiences that made the biggest impact on me. On the board, you will see two lists, one with content and one with experiences. I know it's a lot of words, but that is why I have pictures. There is not an experience that I have had at this institution that I have regretted. Whether that be in Dr. Ewing's class as we work on our welding projects or pour cement to make our sidewalks, or even go to the Inquiry Institute where we got to do hands-on labs and view things from the side of the students as well as the teacher. I have learned so much through this career, and I also wanted to highlight one of the biggest impacts that I had here when I first moved to Penn State. It was the goals immersion. Goals is global orientation for agricultural learners. In the fall, you are asked to go to Des Moines, Iowa, to the World Food Prize. You do some networking with people across the country, across the world. I have met and still have those connections, and it is incredible to see these ag teachers and see these people with a passion for agriculture that you might not have even known existed. From there, in the spring, you're asked to go to a site in a different state. My friend Marissa Kennedy and I were blessed to be on our journey in Henry County, Kentucky, where we taught with Megan Thornton, who's in the top right corner of the slide, as well as Lindsay Davey, who's down here on the bottom. I was able to teach in both high school and middle school settings, and this gave me a very big appreciation for those all across the country who are teaching different levels of agriculture. I did find that while challenging, middle school is so fun. But I will, of course, always have my roots in high school, but I hope that I can gain more experience and maybe even help create more middle school programs throughout the state. I also was blessed to have found out my student teaching placement at Red Lion High School, and you will notice that there is a picture on the bottom row with some fabulous girls in their FFA jackets. You might recognize some of those faces in the audience because they are an amazing support group to me and came out today. And I couldn't go over experiences without talking about Athens FFA. My little sister is something that she is someone that continues to push me even when I think I can't do it anymore. And she was there at state convention, and I was able and fortunate enough to walk her around campus and show her and her friends what Penn State is about. And all of these experiences combined, I was able to gain so much hands-on experience with students in the classroom, outside of the classroom, and you really grasp what it is to be an ag teacher in all of the areas. I'm going to go back a slide for 1 second because I don't have any pictures from outdoor school, though I wish I did. Outdoor school was an experience that allowed me to go into a different setting in a non-traditional way, where I got to go out into the wilderness with a bunch of fifth graders for a week, and we all had mythical names, but we taught them about environmental science. This was so fun, something I could not have asked for going into Penn State. I never thought I would gain this experience, but showed what extension education could look like. I also was able to micro teach at Bellefonte High School, as well as teach a life knowledge lesson at Red Lion. I wanted to highlight as well, we were able to participate in a lot of professional development events as well, such as PAAE and NAAE, which are state and national levels of conferences with ag teachers. We got to do a bunch of workshops, learn from them, take that knowledge, and I now know and have those resources that I can use both during my student teaching and during my future classroom, which I do already have plans for. Some certifications that I have already or I'm working on is my safe tractor driving, which I was able to receive at PAAE over the summer with some of my fellow cohort members. I have my ServSafe certification as well, and I'm currently working on the Hunter and Trapper Educator certification. And how I am prepared to make the most of my student teaching internship. I'm going to Red Lion Senior High School, as I mentioned, and in their mission statement, I felt that it was necessary to highlight this quote: "Should prepare all students to reach their greatest potential, thus becoming responsible and productive citizens." In my philosophy, I talked about how I want my students to come out as educated consumers, but they are also developing skills such as responsibility that will take them into their future. And it is a skill that will be essential to all. So I was really grateful when I saw that my philosophy also lined up with their mission. As I mentioned before, my cooperating teacher is Miss Krista Moser, who is also in the room with us today. And some of the facilities on top of her classroom and just some cool things about her program is she has a greenhouse that she utilizes, and she also has guinea pigs in the classroom. Some strengths of this program that I have seen from my visits is promoting leadership. I have met with so many students already who have such high skills within leadership, and some that are just waiting for that extra push. And I have watched and witnessed as Miss Moser has been able to make that leadership shine through each individual person. She also allows for FFA integration in her program, and each student has the option, if they so desire and find passion in, to be a part of the FFA. Her classroom experiences are all hands-on, and she utilizes her facilities to the max. Her classroom is by far the largest ag classroom I have ever stepped foot in. And I think it is amazing how much she uses in that classroom to make the most of it and make the most for her students. A part where I want to make a difference within the program during my student teaching is maybe getting some more kids to step their foot into SAE, get a project started, find something you're passionate about in agriculture, even if that is just getting exposure to that during the curriculum that I might be teaching. If they find that spark and something they want, I really hope that I can push them a little bit to want to start their own project. FFA engagement is something I know most chapters struggle with sometimes, getting all the members to want to go. Well, why would I do that? I should just stay here at school with my friends. But I've seen what these students have done and what I did as an FFA member, and I hope to utilize some of the skills and experiences that these students have and hopefully encourage others. Whether that is making a recruitment video, something fun the officer team and I get to do together, we will see. We'll see where that goes. This is my student teaching master calendar. As you can see, I will be teaching multiple courses throughout the semester. Intro to Ag, Plant and Soil Science, Animal Science, and Veterinary Science. I was asked to complete 12 unit plans before my student teaching, which I successfully did. And within these units, I was asked to write lessons for these units. I was asked to create 20 and successfully completed 28. So as I sit down with my advisors this afternoon, I'm excited to go over that, and we will see how I can better those lessons and make the most for my students. But I also need to meet the needs of every diverse learner. Every student learns on different levels and they have different skills, whether they're bringing knowledge in from their culture that I can harness and make the most of so that we're educating each other, or whether it's just the difference between someone who learns best visualizing something rather than hearing. I want to have that relationship with my students that I'd be able to meet the needs for them each. But it is important that I keep myself organized. And for those that have seen my planner, you know that I love all things checklists. My planner is something that I am taking into student teaching, and it's something I do plan to utilize and already have made the most of. I also have multiple Google folders. As I mentioned, if you scan the QR code, you can see each folder, and they break down into the units and lessons and all things that I need for them. I love embedded links. I keep these throughout my unit plans, whether it is just a link to a video that I really think is awesome and want to utilize somewhere. I love having that resource. But also I'm a big fan of routine. My routine has been thrown off lately just with trying to succeed and get things done on time. But having routine, and especially going into student teaching, I'm excited to be able to get my students in a routine where we can work best off of each other. Some strengths that I think that I'll be taking into student teaching that I feel that I like to brag about is I'm very adaptable. If there's something I've learned in my micro teaching and in life knowledge when I got to teach in a classroom, is your lessons do not go as you plan them to. I think the students are going to grasp things a lot quicker than they actually do, and that is okay. We all learn at different speeds. And being in college, I often forget how long it took me to learn certain things. But I have learned how I can get students engaged if they're not enjoying a lesson, if it's getting them out of their seats, just doing something to get them back on task and get them interested and excited. I also have a very strong work ethic. Anything you need done, I will pour my heart and soul into, as I did for student teaching preparations. I will continue to do through student teaching. And I feel that I'm very personable. I know sometimes things can be awkward. I can be a little awkward, but I feel like I am able to make connections with people, especially the students so far, or even my CT. I had no idea who Krista Moser was when I heard her name, but I was able to make a connection with her that I feel is very strong already, and I can't wait to see where it goes. But I know that with my strengths, I also have some things I need to grow on. Lesson pacing, as I mentioned, making sure that I'm not moving along too quickly for my students, just keeping in mind of acknowledging where they are. I also want to continue to grow my content knowledge in all areas, because I will be the first to admit I don't know everything. I do know some stuff. I almost said anything. But I am willing to continue growing through professional development, or even just from some mentor teachers. And my biggest thing that I wanted to highlight is letting awkward silence happen and do its work. In the classroom, I have been known and I have been told by my peers through labs, just let it be awkward, just let it be quiet when you ask a question. That is so hard when you're standing in front of the room. And I want to be able to use that more, because I know sometimes you just need to think, you need to have time. I don't want to rush students. So I appreciate you all coming out today and jumping in through Zoom. It's been an honor to have met all of you, and I'm excited to see where this journey takes me. And thank you so much for your support.
Good job, Seanna. Again, I'll remind the online audience to put your questions in the chat, and Maya will help us reload those to the broader group. I'll start off our questions. You had a graphic up there about the 3 domains of learning: the cognitive, psychomotor, and the affective. Obviously, we usually do a really good job of the cognitive domain of learning when we have school, because we teach kids things, we teach them knowledge. Can you give us an example of something that we would teach them in the psychomotor and the affective domain?
Yeah, so both of these come into play, especially with hands-on learning. I think that is when, I'm sorry, let me contain my thoughts. So basically, any hands-on learning that I can provide my students to allow them to do the things and make those connections will allow them to gain and use those other skills within the domains.
So psychomotor, yes.
Yes.
Physically doing the thing, having a skill. Can you give me an example of the affective domain of learning?
I even went over this before, but I do not have an answer for that. I'm so sorry.
I'll circle back around.
Thank you.
We have one in the chat from Sinead. What is something you want your future students to know?
I think the biggest takeaway that I want my students to have is that they always have somebody to come back to. If they need support, I will be that person. If they need somebody to just encourage them with their passion, I will be there for them. And that is a great question, Sinead. Thank you. I really want each of you to know that. And I hope that my classroom is always welcoming to all that walks in.
Ms. Geiger, I'd like for you to describe specifically why it is beneficial to you to engage in professional development concurrently with current practicing in-service agriculture teachers.
Yes, that's a great question. Having the honor to work alongside some of the ag teachers who are currently in the classroom has really allowed me to gain resources, and even just like tidbits of help and hints as you walk in. Like, what are the students doing now? What is something that is happening in the world that's really affecting them, whether that's technology or maybe it's not. I've already learned that in some schools, technology isn't so much an issue anymore. It is a distraction at times, but sometimes when students are allowed to have technology, they will use it when needed rather than just as a distraction. And I've taken a lot from learning from these teachers and I'm really hopeful to work through workshops and be able to utilize those resources in the future. And yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway, and having those networks of, I'm having a problem with X, Y, and Z, and a person will be able to direct you to someone who could help and that you can learn from.
What are you most looking forward to this spring?
Actually, very excited to be working with each of you, and I'm hoping, and I will be coaching some CDEs, and really finding what you guys have interest in so that I can learn how I can help you and we can be successful together.
Ms. Geiger, you mentioned, check and routine, right, and staying on track. As an ag teacher, right, and showing up for your students, when those things do go awry, I'm sure you've heard about burnout in the ag teachers when we talk about retention. How do you ensure you stay motivated and show up for yourself so that you can be the best version for your students?
Yeah, that's a great question. As much as I love routine, I have already witnessed small parts of teaching that just doesn't go as planned. And there's always things happening and there's trips going on. And sometimes those lists just fall through. And I am okay with that. And I have accepted that I know how to adapt to that. But I also, to keep myself from burning out, I keep those lists in mind, but I also take a minute to step back and see what is actually going good right now. Because I've already witnessed through unit planning and lesson planning, how easy it is to forget that they're still good, even though there's so much in front of you.
We have one from Lauren Shelley. What is your biggest strength as a future teacher?
My biggest strength, I feel, is the experiences that I have from going through FFA and even an ag program just in general. I'm able to kind of relate and see where my students are and where they're coming from, acknowledging that I know what it's like to feel like the pressure of not wanting to go to something because you don't think you're going to be good at it. But I feel that I can use that to my advantage because I can show you what can come out of it when you just do it. Just take the time to try. Yes.
What made you choose Redline?
Okay, that's a fantastic question, and I really appreciate it. So initially, Redline was not on my top 3. As a senior, you're asked to go through and go visit schools who you think you might like, find a program that's good for you. You list your top 3. Redline was not on my list at all. And it was actually sitting in the room with my professors as they gave me some ideas of placements that I might want to visit before I commit to my number 1. And Beth Matthew was actually the one who suggested Red Lion. And as soon as I got to meet with Miss Moser, I knew that Red Lion was ideal for me.
I have a question for you,
Yeah.
Seanna. Great job on your presentation.
Thank you.
One thing, with your student teacher placement, you're pretty far from home, and so I'm curious how you plan to get involved and get to know the community that you'll be a part of, especially because you're going so far away from the community that you know.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Red Lion is about 3.5 hours away from my home. And I was totally open to going as far away as needed. And I'm really relying on my CT for this because she knows the community best. And I've already talked to her about places that she utilizes to help her with her program. And through that, I'm hoping that while I'm actually at my center, I'll be able to take the time to go out and say, this is who I am, this is why I'm here. And I would just love to hear why you are in full support of the Red Lion program. Yes.
How do you feel that your experiences currently have helped you improve things that you want to work on personally or weaknesses you felt you had in the class?
Yeah, so a lot of this stems back to micro teaching. I know I keep going back to that, but just being in the classroom has allowed me to gain a little more knowledge of what I need to prepare actually, because you have a checklist of things you need to prepare, but until you're there, you're not actually grasping what needs to be done. And I know that I have some struggles with certain things and I need to work to grow them, but actually being in the classroom has shown me that I will learn that. eventually. And I think that's just like a positive mindset that I keep for myself as I'm headed to student teaching.
If there are no other questions, can you help me join in congratulations?